I want to know something about where your work begins from.
Well, you know, there's the Egyptian hieroglyphs, and there's the cave paintings.
Yeah, but that's what So what did you grow up with?
I'm a total child of popular culture. That's all I ever saw until I was 20 years old.
And what was that?
Childhood comic books and TV shows and old movies that I saw on television. That everything basically comes from that. And we got a TV when I was 5 years old, 1948, and we started watching How to Movie and The Lone Ranger, and that's the stuff I most deeply imprinted on me. That's my cultural imprint. Donald Duck and Winnie the Pooh and Felix the Cat. My parents, they had no culture. They just,
well, they had culture.
I mean, not what was that's what's considered culture with a capital K.
Yeah. Also, you know, in your drawings, in some of them anyway, there's this character who's tremendously clean cut, straight, got a suit made out of rigid cardboard. Is that your dad?
That's my dad, yeah.
What did you, in real life, what did your dad do?
He was in the U.S. Marine Corps for 20 years. He went in 1936, and my mother made him retire in 1956.
With reluctance?
He loved the Marine Corps, loved it. My father, he was that kind of man, you know, that real classic American John Wayne kind of guy. He was a very intimidating man. Like a deep, booming voice, and had a hot temper, you know, when he got angry, you know, he would strike you quite violently.
Didn't he let you know that he loved you when he wasn't striking you?
No, he grew up, he was from very reserved farm people, and, you know, when I come home to visit after I left home, so it's good to see you, Robert, and shake hands.
Well, you were talking about your father's attitude towards you as a child, and what I was going to ask you was, did it ever cross his lamps that you would have ended up as some sort of an artist?
He just didn't, he was totally bewildered by us. We were just Martians and stuff. He used to come in our room and we'd be like laying in our beds in the fetal position reading comics. He was a man of action. He was a U.S. Marine. He'd say, get off your duffs and get out there and do something. And at least use it as a time for action. He had 3 sons. They were all ended up completely defective weirdos. They had comics in Australia, they had their own comics.
They certainly did, but I wasn't allowed to read them, you see.
So you come from the kind of people who didn't let you read comics.
Well, they disapproved of the idea.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And also there was a very strong prejudice in Australia against American comics. There was, as you probably remember, a book by some mad psychotherapist called Seduction of the Innocent by a guy called Frederick Wortham.
Yeah.
That's right.
In the 50s, yeah.
And that was taken with extreme literalness in Australia.
But that was all we had. That was it.
But see, what I want to get at is, you know, some notion that I've always had that comic strips were, in some degree, intrinsically forbidden fruit. I mean, there was something weird and inherently subversive about the idea of the comic strip.
To us, in the culture that we grew up in, it was a kid thing, you know. By the 50s or even late 40s, that they had all this kid media, cartoons, Disney, comic books, and being a person with, I guess, kind of a nerdy Arrested Development, or whatever you want to call it, I just stayed and stuck in that. I never got past it. You know? Of course, when I took LSD and all that stuff, then I kind of bent it to my own, you know, crazy, perverted, you know, fantasies and all that. But I very consciously got that idea, in my late teens of making comics something more personal and not just this kind of stupid mainstream kid thing. You know.
Well, how did you go about that?
Well, I just kept drawing. Just kept drawing.
One of the reasons why you've been so popular and why I was amazed everybody's here tonight, including me.
I'd like to hear this, tell me.
because we think of you as fearless and crazy.
Maybe too crazy to realize I should be more.
Well, the mad seldom realize the dimensions of their own mania. I mean, you're one of the few real, honest-to-God Americans I've ever come across, for instance, who seems to be totally unaffected by the notion of political correctness.
Well, maybe I should be more. you know, those jigaboo images of black people and stuff. I didn't realize how hurtful it was when I did it. No, I was kind of surprised when people didn't love me. I want everyone to love me. Please love me.
And if he exposes that, then people will love you.
Yeah, they'll see that I'm, you know, it's human like them, and they'll...
We love you!
Thank you very much. Don't embarrass me. What? I know, you're okay. You're killing me, you love me so much. It's killing me. You're going to back off.
No, we don't do that. We nearly wish to embarrass you.
Right.
What I want to get to is the way in which these images worked on people. I mean, you've been furiously accused of being a racist because of your... What's the name of the ideal black girl?
Angel Phoenix.
Angel Phoenix Bay.
Canned nigger hearts, they didn't like that at all.
What else did they really not like in that area? I mean, you had some pretty frightening black street clothes.
Yeah, well, they were just stereotyped, traditional, like 1920s images of, you know, big-lipped black people, which actually had very little to do with real African Americans. You know, they were just like cartoon stereotypes that I was playing around with. All that stuff I did in the late 60s, just cartoon stereotypes, Mr. Natural, all of this that I was just playing around with in this kind of psychedelicized way. I don't know, it's hard to explain. It's not my job to explain it.
Well, let's try and explain.
You explain.
You know, I'll be the last qualified, I assure you.
Since it was always a real low medium, you weren't like hindered by any need to be like deep or respectful. You just speak the thing you wanted, you know. You didn't have to be intellectual and deep and complex. And say, hey, it's a comic book. I can do anything I want.
What's that word they love at the universities? Transgressive.
What does that mean, transgressive?
It means...
Sounds bad.
It means it would have offended some dumbass structuralist if he or she had not, you know, been already liberated.
Or post-structuralist.
Yeah, that's something. Anyway, you know, nobody, you know, I mean, great comic artists like, comical artists like, say, Chuck Jones, who's a black man, it didn't really, I think, occur to it to have
no, it didn't occur to
the kind of situations. But you remember there was a famous drawing of all these Disney characters, you know, Dumbo and Mickey Mouse and all the rest, all screwing in this big horse. Why did practically nobody else get onto that very intense content that, you know, in a setting, you know, in a popular, you know, sort of underground popular culture, and make something out of it the way you did?
I think that you had to be really, really alienated to get to that point where you could conceive of stuff like that, you know, and to be very, very alienated from the culture, which I was when I was young. I was, you know, almost catatonic when I was young. I was an extremely alienated person.
But you're going to be catatonic if you're taking all this stuff in and processing.
Yeah, I was processing.
Yeah.
You've got to have nothing to lose. You've got to be the point where you've got nothing to lose.
You started taking acid. I guess we probably both had our first acid experiences or whatever it might be at about the same time, around about 1967. Would that be right?
I took first in June of 65.
65.
It was still legal, actually. Got from a psychiatrist. It was good stuff, Sandoz. It was a little glass vial.
Oh.
It was good. 600 micrograms.
Really good stuff. 600 mics in Sandoz. That was your first time. Oh, God. You know, heading into this loony territory. With no guidance.
Yes, we were children and there was no guidance. Except for Timothy Leary's guide.
Well, he was a loon anyway. Stupid Irishman.
You're an Irishman?
Yes, that's why I'm entitled to say it. Would anybody give you to understand that, you know, drug experiences were somehow going to give you access to greater levels of truth and social
Yeah,
understanding.
they did, yeah. They gave me to understand that people that had already taken LSD, you know, and they said, yeah, this give you visions and, you know, have this religious experience. And they didn't tell me that it might also be total hell. It turned out to be for me most of the time. But still, I kept taking it. Yeah, I could tough it out. So my dad was World War II. For me, it was taking LSD. I was facing death.
I mean, you know, I mean, this is not a frivolous comparison.
No, it's not. It was heavy, man. That's all I'm gonna say. You took it twice, and you told me.
I took it twice.
And you had a hard time with it.
Yeah, I took the first time I took it basically because of my wife.
Right.
And the second time I took it because I thought that, well, shit, I might as well try and find out whether it was really as bad as that.
Yeah, you told me that. That's why I kept taking it, to try to find out what happened the last time.
Did you, at any time, share that view that was so prevalent in, you know, Haight-Ashbury and other great centres of world learning, you know, dropping 250 marks was going to somehow or other induct you into a better world, which if everybody else dropped right along with you,
yes, I
would
believe
then turn
that.
out to be a country utopia. You do believe that?
Yes, I did. I believe that for a while.
Yeah.
I remember telling people that. It's embarrassing to think now. I remember saying, preaching that to people. Everybody take LSD and a better world.
It was a kind of self-congratulation in a way.
Well, no, because all the hippies that took LSD and felt that, you know, in the beginning with some actual validity, they felt that they had perceived a lot of things that were wrong with the direction that industrial civilization was going, and this was all suddenly revealed very clearly, even though, you know, it got fogged over a bit with all the other crazy stuff that was going on. But, you know, in the beginning, when you took LSD, you saw there's something all wrong with this whole setup here, and you got to quickly got to get back to the land, we got to go back to nature, we got to get rid of all this polluting chemical nonsense that we've got going here. We've got to get back, we've got to stop this, it's unhealthy for the planet. It all became viscerally clear.
Yeah.
You know, it all became suddenly life-threatening. This world of all these cars coming at you.
Well, it was life-threatening, goddamn. It was.
You know, in a normal state, you kind of adapt to it. But in that state, that's what drove everybody to go to that such an extreme view of getting away from, you know, modern society. And our parents were all wrong. But, you know, the whole like nuclear balance of terror and all that stuff. It just seemed insane. It seemed totally insane, as I'm sure you remember how he felt.
I remember it vividly.
Very young.
One of the things that interests me is, you know, the way in which this impacted upon your art.
You're trying to work the art game, let's say, you know, you're like Andy Warhol or something, and then you're in with these people of, you know, the cake eaters of society, you know, kids that can get their money. You do what Tom Wolfe called the boho dance, you know, and you're in there. Well, it's just kind of annoying to see a Marilyn Monroe silkscreen print going for $100,000 when, you know, the drawing I worked really hard on. Actually, you can buy I saw a small Bruegel painting, a little one for sale, for less than an Andy Warhol silkscreen print of Marilyn.
That doesn't surprise me in the least. If you consider the relative merits, say, of a $5,000 Goya Capriccio, and on the other hand, a $500,000 work by the immortal Jeffrey Hughes, you know, you become aware that something is indeed absolutely rotten in the state of Denver. Does it piss you off when people treat you as a sort of representative figure of the 1960s?
The 60s, Mr. 60s? Nah, I guess I got used to it.
No, but I mean, after the 60s.
It was just kind of ironic, you know, because at the time I really didn't consider myself a 60s typical guy at all, you know. In the late 60s, I felt kind of like outside a lot of that nonsense. But and to be identified with it later is kind of ironic. But Yeah, in a way, I was a 60s guy. The LSD, I said, oh wow, I hope the weed man, you know, so.
Do we talk about Goya as being an artist of the 18th, 1780s, 70s, or an artist of the 90s when he was doing the caprichos, or an artist of the 80s, of the 100s?
Oh, okay, I understand what you're saying now. You get stuck with this label that you're about to say. That's annoying as hell.
It's really...
So what about everything I've done since then? But the fact is that a lot of people in my generation and a little bit younger were struck by that stuff when it was first happening, and that initial reaction really stays with them, you know. And it all went to hell, I think, in the late 60s. I like rock and roll much better before all those like psychedelic middle class kids started playing it. It was still a real working class thing.
I mean, I have no idea, you know, whether the great black blues guitarists from doing the Stones, inherited so much, actually were working class or...
Oh, they were bums. They were completely at the bottom. They were less respectable than the people picking cotton on a plantation. They were the lowest.
They couldn't get a job as a slave.
In the 20s, yeah, right. They couldn't even get a job as a slave. Rock and roll in the mid-50s, I kind of liked some of that, but what I liked about it was the part that harkened back to something atomistic in rock and roll, you know, that had to do with an older blues and hillbillies.
Well, it connected you back to an earlier America.
And I wasn't even aware of what it was at the time, because I didn't know about old blues and hillbilly music in the 50s. But there was something in that rock and roll that I wanted to hear something more. No, I discovered the music of the 20s. That was the gold nugget that was in the, you could hear a little bit of Jerry Lee Lewis or early Elvis or Carl Perkins or Little Richard, the nugget of the whole thing was in this music. In the 20s, it was a revelation.
If properly understood, it annihilates all that bullshit about avant-garde, because everything is simultaneously present to it.
I totally agree. Comics are part of a very definite, very specific lineage, and no cartoonist ever considered himself a complete, groundbreaking innovator. You know, you're proud of the fact that you picked up from this guy and that guy before and that guy before.
You've got to share common culture. You've got to share how people can take stylistic elements.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
I want to talk for a minute, or I want you to talk for a minute, about Robert Crumb's Genesis.
Yeah. A foolish undertaking.
But it's something that every ex-Catholic boy might entertain nightmares about doing.
Right. I gotta get it off my chest.
What's it doing on your chest?
Well, I was fooling around with Adam and Eve one day. Dude making doodles about Adam and Eve. First I did this whole new take-off, satirical take on Adam and Eve. Lots of little jokey asides and like, you know, Jewish slang and stuff like that. They're Jewish, right?
I think of God the Father as being this sort of tremendous patriarchal figure.
Yeah.
Not altogether dissimilar to your Mr. Natural and God.
Nah. He has a white beard, but actually ended up looking more like my father.
Who did not have a white? Is he going to have a marine uniform?
No, he had a very severe, very masculine face like my father.
Well, of course it's strange, and it's doubly strange, I might say, for us ex-Catholics, because I don't know about you, but certainly in my childhood, we weren't taught about the Old Testament. All that fascinating stuff about, you know, people slaying one another in their tens of thousands.
We had the sisters, you know, they did give us the lurid parts of the Old Testament, you know, to entertain us. In America, you know, you got to keep that.
No, so those Catholic sisters, they were just Christian women. Do you think that people identify with your characters?
Some must.
To a degree which they don't with most comic strip characters.
I think some do, yeah. The real die-hard Crumb fans, these other like pitiful guys like me, they're my big fan base, you know. It even like really warms my heart. But then they also say, you know, you and Frank Zappa and Bob Dylan. actually, for me and most of the people in the milieu that I'm in, the finished thing is the printed thing. It's not the original art.
Yes.
My biggest thrill is to see the printed book. That's, to me, that's the finished piece of art for me. The original is secondary. That's why I used to just give them away as casually when I was young. What a fool. All the messy whiteout and stuff on there, it's not really attractive necessarily, the originals.
Well, nobody wants to have a thing with messy whiteout.
They don't.
I had the peculiar distinction of being Rupert Murdoch's political cartoonist and simultaneously Rupert Murdoch's after him for the Daily Mirror in Australia in 1961 to 1962.